Angry protesters forced Dutch king and queen to rush off from Cape Town Slavery Museum during state visit.
Here's a summary of the article.
Dutch King Willem-Alexander and Queen Mortimer were forced to quickly get to their car after encountering an angry crowd of demonstrators on Friday during a visit to a museum for the history of slavery in Cape Town, South Africa. Dozens of protesters descended on the couple as they exited the museum. The Dutch and South African security guards had to push the protesters aside at that moment. The royal couple invited some of the demonstrators to join them when they entered the museum. The crowd soon swelled to over 100, many of whom expressed anger in front of the doors of the Slavery Museum. A museum employee tried to calm the situation, saying that the royal couple learned more about the terrible history inside, but the fuss only grew. On July 1, the king apologized on behalf of the Netherlands for the Dutch history of slavery during a speech in Amsterdam.
This post received a score of 6,900, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Greater than the atmosphere was initially friendly, but that gradually changed. The demonstrators were identified as being Khoisan, the indigenous people of South Africa. In addition to Willem-Alexander's apologies for the Dutch past history of slavery, they also want to see action, they said. At the beginning of the visit, the couple spoke with the demonstrators outside when there were only a few of them.
Out of curiosity, what action do they want to see?
Money.
It's what the global South wants, especially their kleptocratic leaders. Ironic. Given that slaves in the Cape were almost entirely, if not entirely, imported from elsewhere, like Southeast Asia, South Asia, Madagascar, Angola and Mozambique. The Dutch East India Company actually prohibited the settlers from attempting to enslave members of the local population, as that would have caused some disruption to their attempts to build a refreshment station, which was the primary goal.
This Redditor history game is strong. This is usually the norm in most slavery.
If only the protesters were capable of pointing their anger at the rampant corruption that is the actual cause of South Africa's problems today.
Corruption and rampant crime is nuts in South Africa. My insurance agent is from South Africa and she is so grateful to be living in the US. She says neighborhoods have been turned into fortresses in South Africa, barbed wire, walls etc. just because of so much crime there. She says Americans have no idea what a horrendous place it is to live there in South Africa.
It really depends on where in SA you live. I've lived in the Western Cape most of my life and many middle and upper class neighborhoods they have low fences in front of the homes, and even so people don't have big issues with crime. I find it sad that certain people who emigrate just totally bash the country once they are out. I guess the more extreme stories always get exaggerated, while mild ones are never really repeated. SA definitely has its positives. Why else would we get repeat tourists who keep visiting? I'm from a middle-class background and I think it's not such a bad p.
I suspect there is some selection bias there. The intersection between people who leave and people who have terrible experiences is probably not insignificant.
Probably better to focus on the problems in South Africa now, though I guess that's harder.
It's always easier to blame others for your problems.
Let's be real. A lot of South Africa's current problems were the direct results of past actions by colonizing forces. I say this as a white South African.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.